No fancy building today, but got something kind of crazy going on here. We'll talk about that. So every year I get the opportunity to grab one or two things from the side of the road. This year I grabbed one of those, and I'll notice here I've got this crazy contraption set up, but I just kind of want to show all of the plastic bits that are left over from one of these. There's a lot of plastic. That's not all of it. Still have all of this plastic over here. It's just junk. No good to me. These are some of the other components. Little bits and bobs. It's an air pump that runs off 12 volt. You might recognize one of those things. Got no use for it right now. It's a bunch of tubing, some wire, a bunch of screws and stuff. I was able to salvage quite a few components, but like I said, there's quite a bit of plastic that's going to end up in the landfill. But on to kind of the main course here. Oh, some more plastic. Let's get all that out of here. First thing that we'll talk about here, I think, is just the wiring. So you've all probably seen a cord like this. This is just from a power supply unit from a computer. So I had the cord, and then I had the associated end, which I had salvaged off of power supply at one point in time. So I just kind of bent over a piece of steel, and I've got a really rickety connection here. Excuse me, as this is definitely just prototype right now. But I really wanted to see how this would work as an on-demand hot water heater. So I'll explain a little bit of the wiring and what's going on here. So first things first, we've got a bunch of power coming in from the wall, and it's 120 volt. And so that splits off. We've got 2 and a neutral running down to this boiler system, which I'll show in a bit. But we have another 2 wires running in from 120 into this black box, but under there, I'll unscrew it in the next shot, but under there is just it's a 120 to 12 volt capacitated switch. So we have a 12 volt connection coming out here, which is our pump. This is just a little 12 volt water pump, and it's got some hoses connected here. I'm going to make sure that sucker doesn't get bent. It runs around up into the bottom of this. As you can see, it's a stainless steel base, and this is like a high heat plastic. We have 3 different ports, so I've just taken the 2 ports on the top and connected them back upon each other, so that if this ever gets overpressured, that'll just pop off. And then we have our line out. So this is our water, mainly our water, all of our water. So comes in through here from this bucket, which is super cold right now. Down there, I've just got a nut, make sure it doesn't float, and a couple of things to reduce the flow, just to bring the pressure of the temperature of the water up, because the flow is too great. That comes in, this little pump pumps it out here to the bottom of this boiler system, fills it up, comes out here as hot water. Pretty cool. So let's talk about the electricals. They're also very, very simple. So as I explained, that's the 12 volt connection that runs this little pump. So when you plug this in, everything is live and running. There's no switches right now. It's one of those things that if something goes wrong, you got to reach for the wall or reach for that plug. So yeah. Anyhow, we got a 120 connection coming in through here. We do have a neutral. Where is that at? The green wire. is running, oh yeah, I've got it white to green. So that's running up here, and that is connected with a bolt. So this casing is grounded, and then it's just a simple connection in there on a positive negative terminal for the electrode. And the electrode is it's a three spun coil. And then we've got this, which is a temperature limiter. It's 128 degrees Celsius, and this thing will, well, not explode, but it'll grenade, won't work anymore, and then that'll break the connection, so this thing won't catch on fire. The rest of it's all pretty simple, really, so I just kind of fixed it all to the board here. I've got my holy shit connection there that I can pull out of the wall. Yeah, so, I mean, all this talk is cheap, right? You guys want to see hot water. So, I'll do some proofing here. I'll take a sample of this water temperature. So, like 9.5 degrees Celsius. 9.6. 11 degrees, the container we're going to be pumping into. And so I'm going to put the camera down, get this thing set up, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, we are set up and ready to go. I've got the connection all kind of pushed in on this side here, and yeah, good to go. So just confirm that water temperature again. .9-ish. That's Celsius. Well, let's plug this puppy in. You'll notice it's going to be pretty quiet. There we go. So, a small trickle of water coming out of there. We are pumping away. $33. $34. Pretty remarkable, actually. I can do it that quickly. It's drawing quite a bit of energy, though. This cord is getting pretty malleable. It's quite a bit of draw for a power supply cable, so I may have to look around here for something that's a bit heavier and take the heat. Oh no! Alright. So, what do we got going on here? Let's take a look down here. 10 degrees Celsius in the bottom of that bucket. $34. Not terrible. Not terrible. So now knowing a few of the issues that we faced just in running this thing, I mean, I ran a couple of different tests. So like, depending on how warm or cold this water is and how long the unit's been running, I mean, there's going to be residual heat because there's a big beefy coil. I may open it up and show you guys there. The coil inside. And so, I mean, it's getting, I would say, a 30-degree increase in temperature, which is decent, but I mean, it's not gonna lather up super nice, but I mean, it's definitely warm. I mean, you could recycle it, like recycle as in cycle the water back into the bucket and then bring it back up into the pump, and then so you're increasing the heat all the time, but I don't think this little pump is capable of handling too much heat. as well as, you know, the more heat I put into that, the less heat that motor can get rid of, and then anyhow, there's entropy and the system starts to break down if I do that. So one thing I'm going to definitely do is I found a cord that I grabbed from a bread maker. And a bread maker is a good cord because it has an element, a 120 element as well. So this thing is really rated for high heat, like for element heater cord, I believe is what they call it. So I'm going to wire it up with that. I've foregone the power supply. I figured it was going to be beefy enough, but just was not. So anyhow, so I'm going to get that wired up. And one of the other things I'm going to try, so if I can reduce the amount of water this pump is able to pump into this, so if I can reduce the gallons per minute, that will give this element a chance, longer chance to be able to heat that volume of water before it exits. So I'm going to mess around. Down here you see I've got a bit of a diffuser and stuff like that, so I may mess around with trying to reduce the flow on this somehow, and I'll get back to you in a second. Alright, so I got that plug changed out there, and the thing I've done is I've drained the system here. I've taken the lowest point out. That had this line right here. You'll notice the diameter of that. So one thing I can do to reduce the flow between this guy into this pot is reduce the size of the inlet. So I've got this piece of piping, and in comparison, as you can see, there's quite a bit more restriction in this pipe. My hope is that if I go with this is going to fill up quite a bit slower, and that'll allow the water to get quite a bit hotter. The only thing is it's going to put more strain on this little guy here, but hopefully the cold water coming through is going to be enough to keep this guy cooled down. But I mean, eventually it'll give out, but we'll see. So I'm going to get that set up. Alright, we're on to version 2.0 here. So we've got that heater plug put on now, and you'll notice some of the tubing or piping looks different right now, and this is gonna all be connected and stuff yet, but I've done a little bit of a bottom, well, I'm gonna put a filter on that, so that can be a bottom filter or foot filter. It's just fun. What I've done here, I know it doesn't look like it, but there's a reduction on this now. So this comes down and it comes out in the smaller tubing that goes into the bottom of this boiler, and this is truly a boiler. I mean, if I were to plug these off and feed water into this thing and turn the power on this, it would build up enough pressure that it would blow the hoses out or the sensors out, or probably separate right along here. This thing could create a lot of pressure. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, it's not going to explode, I wouldn't say. But I mean, steam burns are steam burns, so you want to be careful when you're doing something like this. Anyhow, so on to the so I did change the inlet into the pot. Is smaller now, so that should provide a good bit of reduction on this motor here and on this pump, and that'll give us a lot more time essentially. So this is going to fill up slower, and that'll give this the opportunity to heat the water more before it exits this tube. So the flow rate will be lower, but the heat of the water should be quite a bit higher. So let's see. One of the things that I had to unprime the system here, so I had to take all the water out of this to do my tubing, so I have to reprime the system and get water back in here. That funnel really isn't going to do it, so I just kind of took the screws out here, and I'll just retorque them. But gives me the opportunity to show you guys the inside of this thing. It's kind of pretty, but it is dry. As you can see, I did it once, so that coil used to be the same color as the side, and so it's gotten really hot there. So if this doesn't have water on it, the moment it turns on, it has a tendency to want to basically disintegrate. So I want to make sure there's definitely water on this thing before I apply any pressure or heat. And I don't have any switching, so once I plug that in, she's ready to go. So I'm going to put water in here before I put the cap back on. But I thought you guys might want to see the inside. That's a sensor that used to be in the coffee maker, and it creates a hole in the side, and I didn't feel like doing something to fix it, so I just put it back in. And that's up under there somewhere. Yeah, right there. Alright, so here we are with the new setup. I did a test run off camera to get the system warmed up. Our water is at like 11, 15 degrees. Yeah, we're in 15 or 16 degrees Celsius. Our tub right now is 13, 12, roundabouts. This top portion here doesn't bleed off heat as quickly as the bottom. So you notice that's still quite a bit warmer. So I don't think it's going to be as big of an efficiency increase as I had thought, because I don't think I have enough restriction on that. So I'm going to give it a little test run here on camera and show you guys the temperature increase. Just going to get the tube over there into the bucket and plug this thing in. And this cord is handling the heat quite a bit better. $15, chugging away. Can even hear it. These two wires up here are sensor wires, by the way, on the old coffee maker, so I just chopped them off. So 35 degrees, 37. So we're the longer I go, the hotter it'll get, but that's roughly where it's leveling out, around 40 degrees Celsius. So there may be one more thing I can do. So here we are back with another iteration of this little on-demand water heater system. See, proof of concept kind of stuff. So I've gone back to the direct into the 12 volt for this. I had tried a 9 volt connection on that. Didn't seem to work to slow down that motor at all. So I did all that rerouting of the piping and stuff, and I really restricted the bottom. Oops. This guy with a windshield washer nozzle. So that's where the suction comes through, and it actually kind of works as a filter too. And it does provide a good amount of resistance for this pump. You'll hear chugging quite a bit more when I turn it on now, and the flow rate has reduced, which is good. So all that being said, we're getting very close to like the proper cleaning water temperature, which is around 160 or 170 degrees Fahrenheit. But we're going to give it to you in Celsius. So you also notice I put in a dimmer or rheostat, whatever you want to call it, and that's just for the main supply in. It also helps. So when I turn this on, this element isn't on full 120. I kind of have a little bit of control here. And again, this is all just prototyping. So I'm going to turn this sucker on. You hear that thing chugging now. As you can see, the longer this system runs, the hotter that it gets. And I haven't really run it long enough. I have two ballast, like a draw tank and a place to pour it, to be able to see if it'll actually do it on demand or not when it's running. But I mean, you know, it just keeps creeping up there, creeping up. Pretty amazing, actually. But I want to try this system, I think, one more configuration. I think it's where it's going to really shine. So I'll get that set up and be right back. So in this final iteration here, pretty much everything is the same in the wiring and stuff there. But we're going to be doing different... So an on-demand system essentially means that you draw from one source and then it runs through a very big element that draws a ton of power, and then it gives you water that is free of bacteria. So I think it's 166 or 170 degrees Celsius, or sorry, Fahrenheit. I'll give you the Celsius conversion there. But what I'm going to do here, if the old little pump can handle it here, is I'm going to start cycling the water through. This is 1 liter of water. I measure it out roughly, more or less, sitting in that Keurig thing. And so I'm going to draw, and I've taken the restriction off. So that little tiny restriction that was on the pump, this pump is going to be able to get as much of this water as it can handle. I still have the restrictions in the flow, but that's okay because they weren't doing a heck of a lot anyhow, except for this buffer right here. So yeah, so then the water is going to come out of here, the hot water, and it's going to come down, and it's going to land back in here, and then it's going to recirculate back through. And I think what we're going to try to do is time it and see how long it takes to get to the magic number that you'd want your water heater at. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to get it set up here for that and come right back. Alright, so here we go. See down here, I got a stopwatch. I'm going to start that sucker. And the water is currently 14 degrees Celsius. I'm going to put this rheostat, this dimmer switch, on the max. Get this puppy rolling. Boom. There we go. Steamy already. I'll start. Warm, but it's not like burn me warm. So 2 minutes in, we're at 40 degrees Celsius, liter of water. Well, that pump isn't necessarily liking the super hot water. I may cut this earlier than I thought, but we'll see. So like maybe 5 minutes. Seems to be holding up to the heat so far. Interested. Let me check this dimmer. That thing's getting quite warm. But it's not grenading yet. Just a lot of current going through it. It's definitely getting warm. There's no question about that. I don't know if I'd be sticking my hand in there liberally right now. Probably. But it's on the hotter side of warm. This is not the solution. This is getting quite warm. And we're coming up on that 5-minute mark. Alright. So there we are. System is not energized anymore. 70. Still climbing. It's not cycling anymore, but it's just going to even out there. So, in regards to efficiency and stuff like that, I have no idea. I know that this thing certainly draws a lot of power. There's no question. It's a 120 connection. It's a big old element. So essentially what I built here is a big, giant tea kettle. But a lot of people are going to say that, well, that's a big, giant tea kettle with a pump on it, and kind of is. But this is the trick, is that the reservoirs, however large you wish to have it, certainly in this configuration. So let's say you had a small greenhouse and you didn't want to plumb it in for hot water. You could fill up a wash tub and use this device to cycle the water in the wash tub and still have hot water in your greenhouse or wash up area. And all of that was made out of a Keurig. What are we leveling out here? 71 degrees Celsius. There's a, I don't know, I got, oh yeah, that's pretty warm. And I'll do it in Fahrenheit, just to be fair. So, pretty well reaching that magic number for 1 liter of water. Pretty cool. I wouldn't be throwing that away if I owned it. Alright, take care. See you next time.